Hi everyone, and welcome to another edition of Bluebird Corner. My name's Pan. Please like and subscribe to the channel for your chance of winning a £250 gift card courtesy of Top Tier Cleaning. That draw is going to take place on the 17th of June, which is going to be when we have a pod on the 82-83 season. So if you like and subscribe, you'll be within a chance of winning that prize. We'll do a draw for that on that show. So tonight we're going to talk about Tan. Tan, has he gone mad? The last three weeks, we've had so much going on, and I wanted to break it down really into three parts. The actual interview process we're going to start with, and then what's going on with Tan, and finally, who is going to be the next Cardiff City manager. We know it is going to be, but who knows with Tan. So I'm going to start with the actual interview process. We know, obviously, going back to how it started, that, to be fair, there was publicity put out there that we were going to change the process. We were going to have some football people on the actual process of interviewing. Chesterfield, the director of the academy, and Alan, who was sporting director of Man City, were part of that committee to narrow down the candidates. So looking at that face value, we thought, well, that's a positive change. I don't think anyone was critical of that. We thought things were changing for the better. And we had over 100 applicants, as you do for the most biggish clubs. And that was whittled down to what was a final three, which was put through to Tan. Now, on that final three, we know that Barry Murphy and Ramsey were two of them. We think it's Buckingham, but it could be someone else as the other third candidate. And we thought that a decision was going to be made on Monday this week, after the interview process went through last week and the shortlist was put together, that Tan would make, or the club would make, an announcement this Monday who was going to be the next Cardiff City manager. And then, obviously, the silence was deafening. So we knew, obviously, something was going on in the background. It turns out that Tan has been, obviously, talking to some other football people, i.e. Warnock being one of them, and some other managers, ex-managers, etc., other football people we don't know about. And the name on everyone's lips in terms of who should be the manager of Cardiff City was Nathan Jones. Now, Nathan Jones is a Valleys boy. He's a massive Cardiff City fan. Used to go on the Bob Bank when I used to go down. And, he knows, how passionate fans are. Did incredibly well at Charlton, took over when they're in the bottom six of League One, got them mid-table halfway into a season, and then had a pre-season, got them into the playoffs, and got beat Orient to go up with, I think, 39,000 fans going to Wembley. So, he's been a massive positive influence for Charlton. He did an incredible job with Luton. So, he ticked all the boxes, and we were sort of getting a little bit excited, thinking that something's going to happen here with Nathan Jones. The club, we'd have to pay up his contract. He's got 3 years remaining, so that, well, I think it's 2 years remaining, maybe 3 years remaining. So that would cost over £1 million. And we thought that, the delay meant that Nathan Jones was coming to the club. And now we learn that Nathan Jones has signed a extension to his contract by 2 or 3 years, tying him down to Charlton Athletic for 5 years. Now, Nathan Jones was in the box seat there because, Charlton knew that City had approached them. They wanted Nathan Jones, and Charlton didn't want anything to do with it, really. And that's why they renegotiated Nathan Jones's contract. Nathan Jones, obviously, on the face of it, looks as if, he didn't ask Charlton, to leave because he knew he was in the box seat. He's obviously built that club up from going nowhere. I know that for a fact that some of the fans were against him last November. So I thought that may have been a factor in Jones, not wanting to stay there. But, he was in the box seat. So he knows that with this extension to his contract, If next season he suddenly gets sacked halfway through the season, he's going to be paid up to or over £2 million in contract compensation. So again, like it happened to Southampton, he's going to have plenty of money in the bank if things go pear-shaped. But Charlton obviously were desperate to tie him down, knowing that City wanted him. So as it stands today, we know that Nathan Jones is out of the question. I know a lot of fellow City fans like myself were really excited that that could happen. But let's be honest. I mean, the whole process has been a farce. And that's where I want to lead on to Tan losing the plot, really. I mean, if you look at it, we've had a number of managers over the last few years since Warnock. I think we've had, 7 managers since 2019. If you go through the list, Reza, Bullet, Lamucci, Hudson, Morrison, McCarthy, Harris, all gone within less than 18 months of taking over. You could argue that Harris sort of did reasonably well, but 7 managers since Warnock November 2019 is shocking, really. Some of those managers obviously less than a year, so you can see that we just been a basket place of a club really since Warnock. We've had recommendations from Delman, we've had foreign managers, we've had ex-City players, we've had inexperienced managers, we've had experienced managers, all failed. I mean, all the decisions, bar Bullet, in terms of who's going to be the manager, were made by Tan. They haven't worked out. We've declined over the last few years. Our income per annum is reducing every year. Our tendencies are dropping, so you've got to ask yourself, what the heck is going on with Tan? I mean, here's a guy who owned a McDonald's franchise. That's how he started off. He had one McDonald's in Malaysia, and he built up his business, and then he ended up becoming a billionaire. One stage worth 1.67 billion. So he's no mug. He does know about business. But in terms of Cardiff City, yes, you can obviously look and say, look, if in his 15-year tenure, we've got to cup final. We've had 2 promotions to the Premier League. So you could say that it's been the most successful period nearly, for many, many years for Cardiff City as a football club, especially since I've been going down in 1980. It's been our best period. But we have declined over the last 5 years. All City fans know that. And my question is, what is going on in Tan's head? We know that he doesn't trust anyone after Moody and Malky. He doesn't seem to understand that having a football person on the board makes a huge difference. He doesn't understand that a sporting director actually helps the club. I mean, if you look at the top clubs around, they've got sporting directors, they've got football people on the board, they've got a good structure in place. That's why they're successful. It doesn't always work, but most of the time it will work if you've got the right people in the right jobs. And with Delman and Cho, they're puppets. We know Delman's invested up to 26 million in Cardiff City. I'm going to do a pod on the finances of the club since Tan's been there to see if he has actually lost money. So watch out for that. But there's no way he would, he'd have to buy Delman out to get him out of the club. So as much as we say Delman's his puppet, he's not going to get rid of him. He's there because he's got loads of money invested in the club, and that's not going to change unless we get a external buyer. So the structure in terms of Delman, Cho, and Tan there is not going to change for the next few years. So I just don't understand. There's a guy, who's made a lot of money from nothing. He has lost half his business in Malaysia due to COVID and other factors. And Cardiff City, as I said, have been losing millions over the last few years. Attendances are dropping. The whole perception of the club isn't great. Let's be honest. I know some Cardiff City fans are fickle. I know obviously they're quick to be negative. Some of them. We have some of the worst in terms of that. But let's be honest. To everyone outside the club, we're seen as Tan as a laughing stock, really. And, ex-football players like Nathan Blake have said many times we need a proper structure, but nothing ever changes really. And I just don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening to our club. This process has actually made us look even more of a joke. I mean, to think that we brought football people in like Mark Allen, why wasn't it left to a committee of 3 or 4 experienced people who've got good football knowledge to make that decision and just say, look, that's the person we think will do a good job at Cardiff City. That's the whole idea. You're paying these people in the first place. So you could have paid me 50 grand to be on that committee. It wouldn't have made any difference because Tan in the end, rides roughshod over that and decides himself what's going on. So, I'm wondering about Tan's mental state, because he's very, very stubborn. He's got more stubborn, obviously, since I said Moody Malky were there. He doesn't trust anyone else. And, surely from his club in Belgium going down, from City going down, first time in over 20 years, as I said, most City fans under 30 wouldn't have seen us in League One. So, he's got to get this right. And this turns into a bit of a farce, really. We all know that Nathan Jones, they would target him, but how does that look for Ramsey? How does that look for Barry Murphy or Buckingham if he's on that 3? So now we're left in a situation where who is going to be the next Cardiff City manager? And for all intents and purposes, as far as we know at this stage, Aaron Ramsey is in the box seat. But the issue there is, fair dues to Aaron Ramsey, he wants the structure in place that we all think is the right thing, a sporting director and certain things in place. But, again, I think there's things going on behind the scenes regarding that. Aaron Ramsey, is a Caerphilly boy. He started his career at Cardiff City, excellent player, sold him for way too little money, 5 million quid. Should have been 15, 20 million at that stage. Went on to have a very good career at Arsenal. And he's done incredibly well for Wales, one of our best all-time players without question. Came back to City, didn't need to come back, could have gone to Saudi, could have gone to the US, could have made millions, wanted to come back. He wanted to help City get into the playoffs at least. Didn't work out, had some really bad injuries. I mean, Ramsey has got some kudos with the City fans, but I think the gloss has gone a little bit with that, with, the injuries he's had, and he didn't have much impact on the field. But, Aaron Ramsey is someone that Cardiff City fans do respect, I think. He's a passionate Welshman. He wants Cardiff City to do well. I think, is he the right choice at this stage? 34 years of age, no experience. We've been down this route before. The fact is that if maybe that Ramsey was at another club with a good board behind him, maybe it would work. But I do question whether he will work with Tan. Will he get what he wants really? Would he turn it down if he doesn't get what he wants? This is the big question. And I know, when you get opportunities, it's a case of, would you get another opportunity if you turn it down? And this is the big thing. You could argue that he should do a Bellamy and possibly go out as a number 2 and learn the ropes. So there's that argument. Is he really ready to step up what is a very difficult league? There's some good sides in there. Boltons of this world, who are fairly big clubs, can't get out of it. Bradford have come up, and Reading have changed ownership. So there's some decent sized clubs in that division. I would personally like Challoner, Dave Challoner, to have, someone of that, he's got experience. He's been around. He knows the league inside out. He's done an incredible job at Stockport. He is a very good manager, and I think Challoner would have been, perfect for City. But I'm not knocking Ramsey. I think he's got the potential. And the thing is, we could turn around and say, well, he hasn't got experience. So, but we don't know until he's in the job properly. You can't judge him on those couple of games, 2 or 3 games he had at the end of the season. He hasn't had anything. If we can give him the structure he wants, so that's a great thing. He does realise that the club need to change in terms of the backroom structure, the philosophy, and everything. He knows a lot of the young players. They do look up to him. He's had a stellar career. As I said, one of Wales' best all-time players without question. So you can't knock him of what he's achieved in his football career. He's got good knowledge. He's a very technical player. He knows the type of football he wants to play. So, personally, I think, as I said, it's 50-50, I think, with City fans. But if it is Aaron Ramsey, we will get behind him, I'm sure. But it's just this Tan situation is really just frustrating. It's so frustrating. It just seems to get from bad to worse. I know Tan's put so much money in, etc., but let's be honest, the last few years have been dismal, and it just gradually got worse. And at this present time, I don't know Aaron Ramsey at this stage is the right manager, for the situation we're in. We got Delman saying before the process that we needed someone experienced. I thought, that's what we're going to get. We may well not be Ramsey. It may be someone more experienced. So it is a case of wait and see. I think the decision will definitely be made on Monday. The latest, it can't go on any longer. We've got to make that decision. We need that manager in place who can put his stamp on the team, on what he wants to get out of this league. There are going to be a few players leaving without question. We need to, raise some money because we're losing 8 to 10 million by going down to League One. We know that. So as much as Tan and the board have said, we don't have to sell, well, I think we do have to sell, let's be honest. We can't afford to lose millions again and be a bit clever in the transfer market. So it'll be really good to hear what you think at Bluebird Corner. Please like and subscribe, as I said, to be with a chance of winning that £250 gift card, which we'll draw on the 17th of June. Let us know who you think should be the manager. How do you feel about Tan at this moment in time? Will you back Ramsey if he's given the job? Do you think he's the right things? Do you think he'll get the structure that we'll need if he gets the job? And it'd be good to hear what you think of the current situation. I'm really frustrated about the whole thing. I imagine a lot of my mates are. I know that for a fact. I've been on the phone to a lot of them today. They're not happy one bit. But as I said, it would be good to hear what you think. Let's hope that we do get the manager in place no later than Monday. We can't afford to wait any longer. So, as I said, please let us know what you think. And we'll be doing a show coming up on the 1981-82 season for people like myself and my vintage who might be interested. Please let us know if you'd like us to do a pod on a season you started down there, if it was before the 80s. And as I said, we'll be doing other podcasts as well on ex-players, etc. So, yeah, as I said, we'll see you soon. Please like, subscribe, Bluebird Corner. Take care.